Where's your faith?
Exactly. And a lot of Christians, when they fear, I take them to this verse. You know what I tell them? You know what your problem is? You're not loving God like you should. If you really love God, you're not going to have any fear.
Because you don't have the confidence in God.
Yeah, exactly. How do you, boy, when you study the history of the Christians that were beaten and battered and you say, how could they do that? They had no fear. The love of God in their heart was so strong, they didn't fear anything. That's why they could do it, because their love for Jesus was so strong, they didn't fear anything. And that's why they went into places where nobody else would go, you know, with the gospel.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all 3 and 4.
3, loving one another proves that God's Spirit is in us. And number 4, loving one another proves that our testimony and confession are true.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I put that in the notes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I know. And then lastly, loving one another proves that we love God. Verse number 19 and 20. All right, let's begin with number 1. Loving one another proves that we are born of God and we know God. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, verse 7, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. Very self-explanatory. All right, let me pause here for a minute. I'm feeling kind of yucky right now. They'll pass. All right.
Pastor, this know and no fear, does that include snakes?
No, that's called wisdom. Get out of there. Yeah, I wouldn't charge a snake. Oh, I love Jesus. I'm gonna. No. God gave you common sense.
Great fear.
I would too. Yeah. All right, number 1, God is love. This is what I want you to notice in verse 7 and 8. His very nature, verse 7, is what? Love. God is a loving God. And we need to understand that. And so, therefore, if a person loves God and becomes a loving person, then he takes on the very nature of God, doesn't he?
That's interesting. God's nature is love.
Yep.
Is our nature love?
No. Our nature is carnal, sold under sin. And thank you. It takes the love of Jesus Christ shed abroad in our hearts to love somebody.
So to take on the nature of God, I mean, we could all be like, John, I love you. The minute John's out of sight, out of mind, I go home, I could be a totally different person.
That's right.
So we have to really work on that.
Of course.
Moment by moment, to love all the time.
All the time.
Even driving.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, it's
you have to.
Yeah.
It's a constant thinking every day, because people are gonna come into your area and in your area of life that that are going to give you a hard time. You know that they're not friendly. You know they're irritable and they're just those type, here they come. Well, the attitude should be, here they come. Jesus, help me to love them and give me an open door with them. Now you never had that when you were unsaved.
So our nature should be one of not us, selfish. That's the opposite of love.
That's right. Yeah. And even the disciples had to work on it. Remember the 3 sons of thunder, man, they had no love, those guys. Their love was, you give me a hard time, zap them, kill them. Those guys were something else. Yeah, they needed to learn the love of God, Man, you wouldn't want those 3 guys as a pastor.
See them in a dark alley.
Oh my goodness, you know? Yeah. Yeah. You know, the Bible tells us in Proverbs that love covers what? A multitude of sins. Okay? There are just some sins you just got to, you know, love covers it. And so we got to ask God to give us that love. Okay? Because all it takes is a split second to get in the flesh and not love anybody. All it takes is a split second. You know? All it takes is a split second. Now, when people see that we are born of God, they're going to see the love of God in us. But how do they see God's nature in us? How do they see God's nature in us? That's the question. How? By love. One of the strongest testimonies that we can have as a Christian is to show unsaved people the love of God in us. They need to see that, because remember, people cannot see God physically. So how are they going to know how God acts, what God likes, what God does not like? It's going to come from how we demonstrate the love of God in our life. They're going to see God in us, and that's how they're going to recognize God. So if we don't display that at all, that's going to be tough. And that's why John starts out here, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God." One of the strongest proofs and the greatest testimony we can have as a believer is to practice love in this unsaved world. We need to practice that. It's very, very, very important.
A lot of people aren't very lovable.
No, they're not. They're not. Especially if they treat you rotten. And you know what? And you know where it's the hardest to practice? Where's that the hardest to practice?
In your own family.
In your own family. Yep. We can put up with unsaved people outside the family, but one of our family members starts in, we have a tendency to put the two-edged sword in instead of loving them. Don't we? But we wouldn't do that to an unsaved person outside the family. We'd be patient, right? We'd be loving. We'd say nice things. We'd try to draw them to the gospel. When it comes to our family, it is difficult to practice Christian love in your family.
Patience.
You know why?
Then.
Why? They know you. They know all your faults. They know all your wrongs. And they're quick to bring it up. Oh, you call yourself a Christian, but you know what? You know.
You're just a carpenter's son.
That's it. You know? And that's where you come in as a believer and say, yeah, I have my faults, but at least I'm trying to live for Jesus. One of the greatest things that a Christian can do is tell them, yep, man, did I blow it? I need forgiveness. When they see that, wow, they don't know what to do with that. Really, it sets them back.
I was at work and I was just talking. I said, I usually get up at like, 7:45, 10 of 7. My wife brings me a cup of coffee. And he said, your wife brings you a cup of coffee? I go, yeah, every morning. He goes, you're kidding. No, wow. And that was really an impression upon me.
Yeah. How come you don't do that?
You get up first.
I do. I'm the first one.
Usually gets up first and makes the coffee.
I make the coffee, so. But yeah, it's interesting, so. Yep. All right. So what I'm trying to express here in verse number 7 is this. People need to see the love of God in us. They really need to see it. Because boy, they don't. You go into this world, there's not too much love, is there? There's not a lot of love in this world. It's all me, myself, and I. People only care about themselves, and it's getting worse. This is before Jesus Christ. It's just getting worse. People also, when they see that the love of God in our hearts, that verse also says, when they see that, then they know that we know God. One that loveth born of God and knoweth God. They really